All right. So let me see now. John Ford is in the chat. All right. Looks like we're live. I'm trying this again. We're on YouTube. We're on X. Okay. Sorry, guys. It's kind of a pain in the butt.
Tech issues. They do
what?
happen. I say tech issues. Unfortunately, they do happen.
I'm not a fan. But it's not my thing. Let me just refresh this now. Let me see here. Reload. Is there a reload here? Oop. No. Live. Okay. I'm just going into the room for this. Okay. Why isn't it? That's odd. Okay. Are we live anywhere?
Looks like the YouTube has gone down now as well.
How about Rumble? Is Rumble still not live?
I'm going to check it right now.
Okay. Gonna delete this. Okay. So the YouTube is back.
All right. Yeah, it looks like.
All right. So the YouTube is back. I'm gonna. So I think the Rumble will come back too. I'm sorry,
pretty sure
guys.
it is coming back. I do apologize. Yeah, as well. Technical issues, new equipment, these things. You know, all the kittens in the internet are batting at the strings.
All right. So this could be a Rumble Studio thing. I don't know. So okay, Johnny was in a band with Alice Cooper. I'm still getting your chat somewhat. So okay, let me see if Rumble is working.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to get through the ads to see if the
feed
pops up.
Play. Come on.
All right, I think we're good. I'm seeing it on my phone now. So
you are? Well, if there's an ad playing, that usually means that there is a video behind the ad, right?
But yeah, no, I'm watching the video right now. So yeah.
Why am I not seeing it?
I don't know. I think it might run there. I think their mobile network might run separate from their other network. Because
no, I see it now. It created a new instance of the stream. Yeah. That's what it is. Okay. So let me just pop the chat out. We're back. Okay, I got it. Sorry, guys. Okay. Yeah. So I think we're just going to go from there. Let me just look on X one more time because I think it may have created a new instance there as well. Yes, it did. So I got to open it up again.
Yep.
All right.
I'll do some reshares really quick.
Okay. Ain't tech fun? Oh, yeah, it's my favorite. I love it. I love how consistent and reliable it is.
Indeed.
Okay. So anyway, as I was saying, so he lost work on the Harry Potter movie. I think they were called something Creatures. I can't remember, but they're like the prequels. He was like one of the villains on that. Fantastic Beasts. That's right. And he also lost work with Disney as well. And the reason was because obviously the studios, they were like, well, we don't want to be anywhere close to this guy because he's got all these allegations, right? Hollywood Vampire is the name of the band. Oh, with Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper's very cool. I like Alice Cooper. He's a very base dude, or at least appears to be. So, but so I mainly though the thing I wanted to point out is that like I said, the Me Too movement is just a method by which jobs can be taken away from men and redistributed to women. I don't know how else to put it except that that's what it is, and it's been used everywhere in every arena. Like I talked about it, animation, in writing, and that's why all of our media shit now, because the people that have these positions are not good at their job. And it's changed the entire landscape in the same way that Black Lives Matter has done a lot of damage that can't be reversed, because you got like these people with activist mindsets and they go in and they're like creating content and they're making shit. So this is what happened to Johnny Depp and Hollywood by extension. So I don't know what else to say about that, except that I think it was a mistake, but we'll see. Okay. So with that said, I'm glad that he is at least acknowledging the fact that Me Too was a tool to be used, because that's why he's calling himself the crash test dummy of Me Too, because on some level he has to understand that it is not about justice for victims. It's just like Harvey Weinstein is beating his allegations right now, because guess what? He didn't do anything illegal.
Yeah.
He didn't. Like, casting couch is a thing. We all know it's a thing. Those women, they knew what they were doing. Now they just want to like figure out how to get a payday out of it, and they turn into a whole thing. And a lot of people were making money. As a matter of fact, the other hashtag Time's Up, was exposed as like an NGO.
Right.
Which usually when something says NGO, it's actually GO. It's not nonprofit.
And it's generally global governance that's behind it. Unfortunately, and you know the interesting thing about these situations is they go after you know, private people, and they use like weird kind of stretches of the definitions of the law to go after them. But then like counter that to what's going on with like Puff Daddy, right? And it's Maureen Comey is the head prosecutor, James Comey's daughter, and she was also involved with the Epstein court for Ghislaine.
Yeah,
you know,
interestingly,
and they drop all the charges that are actually of any importance. And so it's like, because had they had to call defendants, they would have crept in on the Comey family. And it's kind of hard to be the prosecutor when, like, you know, like the defense is like, you know, like going to be implicating you as the prosecutor as being one of the people likely involved in the whole way that, you know, this dark, you know, system of human trafficking and whatnot that's legitimate is playing out. But, you know, if you can go after people that have a, you know, certain kind of spectacle to them, then you're able to kind of do these more clandestine things, and they just do it brazenly in our faces, and there's not even a hint of shame or irony to the whole situation. And so yeah, it is interesting the way that these movements are being used to kind of deflect and protect what's actually going on.
And a lot of time, like, they're almost always like backed by like globalist money or banker money or something, right? So I mean, it's never real. It's always astroturfed. It's never really a grassroots thing. Especially like, look at what's happening in LA, or was happening. I don't know if the protests are like, I don't know if they got canceled or whatever, but like the anti-ICE protests, to put it that way, that turned into riots. Or they were always riots.
Right. Where there were I learned,
there was like an in-house memo that went out like a couple of years ago from within Starbucks, and what the memo was something that it was in the upper management area, but somebody leaked it out. And I'm going to paraphrase because I'm not like 100% what it says, but it was something like, this year we're not going to be doing Pride as like because it was right around the time that it looked like Trump was going to win, that this went out. So it was before he won, but it was like, you know, after like Biden had put like trans flags on the White House lawn. So they were like, we're not doing Pride this year. Now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to basically, everything's going to be about immigration.
Right.
So like, this is like in like the upper levels of like these, you know, giant corporations. And suddenly, when this first year, when summer came, because it's always in the summer when the chaos starts, right? And again, artificial, all of it's artificial. In the summer, you got like these anti-immigration protesters burning shit down. Antifa comes out, they're bringing out pallets of bricks again, just like they did with BLM. And they're all, despite the fact that they're like supposedly immigrants that don't even speak English, they're all holding perfectly English written signs that are professionally printed out, that all have the same slogans, and they all have their marching orders, and it's all fake. That's that. And of course, the purpose of it is to demoralize people that have to see it, to make people feel like, you know, that they have to do something, or that they can't do anything, and it's to emotionally manipulate those who are vulnerable to emotional manipulation.
Right.
So and they'll just change. They just move the goalposts. Like if immigration doesn't work, which it doesn't look like it is working, they're just getting deported. I understand that Albrigo Garcia, he got deported, came back, and then got deported again. Like he just got re-deported. If that doesn't work, then they're gonna find a new thing to latch onto, and they're gonna make that, it'll either later this summer or next summer, because it's always in the summer when this stuff happens. So I'm assuming later this summer, though, they'll reorient the gears, and it'll just be focused on, there'll be something about something immigrants, something black people, something women, something LGBTQ. That's almost always how it goes. Something Muslims, something. I already said immigrants, natives, Aboriginal Americans, whatever. That's it. Those are like they're little purse puppies, and they're just gonna turn them into the new thing. So be on the lookout, because it's gonna happen. What were you gonna say?
Just kind of like two things are kind of tangential, like because similar to what you were saying, how Weinstein's seemingly beating his issues. It sounds like Vince McMahon, as weird as his proclivities are and everything strange as that, when you actually kind of look into the whole thing about consenting adults and everything that goes into play, once again, it's just kind of like, are you making weird, lewd kind of conduct and this and that? Sure, but it's not illegal.
I didn't look into the Vince McMahon thing, but I can tell you that, he's probably not. He probably did not break any laws. Like when you're like really famous, high status, and powerful, you don't have to trick women to fucking you. You can just, they will throw them, like when Trump said they let you grab them by the pussy, like that's not a lie. That's the way it works. I'm sorry. And so you don't get to go back later and be like, I regret that. Now he raped me, because that's the paradigm we're under now. This is why I'm saying, I don't even have to look into the Vince McMahon thing unless there's something explicitly, like violent that happened, because some people are sick. But most likely it was consensual. Bill Cosby, consensual. He's beating that case too. Everybody goes on about it. But the truth is, when they confess that, when he confessed that he did take drugs with women and then have sex with them, it does not mean he roofied them. It means they went to his cab and he was like, you want to get high? And they were like, yes. And then they both got high. And then he was like, you want to fuck? And they were like, yes. And then they fucked. And that's not rape. You could call it degenerate if you want to, but it's not illegal. And this is the thing. And of course, nobody, if Harvey beats this case or Bill Cosby beats the case, it's either going to get memory hold so that nobody knows that they won, and that's like the end of it, right? Like, he beat it, so we can't, because that shatters the whole narrative, right? Me Too would be for nothing, and they've invested too much. It's kind of like the George Floyd thing, like anyone who's even made any attempt to look into the case knows that he died of a drug overdose. Anybody who looked into it, but there's a lot of people who don't know that, because they just look at what the TV tells them and they say, okay, well, the TV said this.
Right. Remember those ads from a few years back where it was like Steve and Susie were drinking together?
Yeah.
And they had sex. Susie couldn't consent. It's like, well, what about Steve? Steve couldn't consent then either, right? Like there's like this thing called fairness and justice. Yeah, there has to be fairness and justice. Otherwise, it's just law enforcement through the legal system. And as somebody who has had to deal with law enforcement through the legal system, we really need to get back to a system that is about fairness and justice, and actually understanding that if someone treats you in a certain way and you respond in kind, or like if it's mutual, then that is fair game for everyone. And both parties are just as much at fault or, absolved of wrongdoing, as long as it's consensual. And consensual is something that happens at that moment, not 6-8 months later, 10 years later, whatever length of time it is. And but yeah, when you talk about people trying to emotionally bait everyone into a cause, right before the show began today, You guys should go check out the clip for Joe Rogan experience
Were you talking with Bernie Sanders?
Was talking to Bernie Sanders about the climate change stuff, and I'll just leave it at that because I know you don't need to get shadow banned any worse than you already have.
Oh no, it's fine. Like I've rejected the climate change bullshit. Joe Rogan used to be a believer, though. He used to be a believer in that. He used to say 97% of scientists, though. And it was like, yeah, but 97% of what scientists?
Right.
Like all of them on Earth or a specific group? That's kind of like saying, 97% of feminists agree rape culture is real. Well, yeah, of course they do.
Right. The video we did yesterday on Toasty's channel was a GDC, seminar on queerness, right? And I've mentioned this before about the way GDC works, right? They go and they get demographic sheets from you, right? What are your pronouns, who are you, who you work for, and then they even said it within the session themselves, right? Well, we sent out these polls to be taken, and so they skew who they send them to, and they even admitted as much. You're like, we also sent it to a few people that were non-binary to get their views on it as well, but like all the numbers they're showing you have all been fudged and worked, and it's all complete and utter bullshit. But and that was the thing that Joe was saying to Bernie, is that the largest, longest, most highly invested study into global warming stuff tracks 450 million years of data, right? And it shows that the Earth is in a global cooling phase. But the stuff that they use to try to push that initiative, ultimately is not anywhere near that length of time. And it's because ultimately what this is about is making sure that you can't mow your lawn. You can't travel across the country, and it shuts down small businesses. You have to be like one of these large scale corporations that can buy carbon credits and just still do whatever you do. But ultimately the tax to bear, both financially and physically, is put on all of our shoulders, and they just go about committing to more fuckery. So it's like people need to, and that's why I like doing the show with you, is like actually getting into the depths of these issues and not just like the surface level facades of all this hippy dippy bullshit that so many people get caught up in, like the clown show of the interchangeable names and faces that kind of go around the carousel from week to week, because it's not about the actors, it's about the agency and the intention behind it, because the actors will always be plotted out. How many Batmans do we have in the last 20 years? It's like, it's not that hard to change an actor.
Well, technically just Johnny Depp. I mean, not Johnny Depp. What's his name? Why am I forgetting his name?
Oh, Christian Bale?
Christian Bale, yeah. Because 20 years, Val Kilmer and George Clooney and, those guys. Well, I stand corrected. Ben Affleck played him too, as well as Michael Keaton did return to reprise a role in that Flash movie nobody watched, but yeah.
Right. And there was also Robert Pattinson as well. That's what I'm saying.
That's right. You're okay. You're okay.
So that's what I mean. It's
I concede you are correct, sir. There's at least 5 Batman, not including any voice actors that did it for animated things. So
right. And so that's what I mean. It's like, an actor's interchangeable,
and
they have no problem doing that. Don Cheadle was not the first War Machine in Marvel. They just simply slotted him out because
that originally was played by Terrence the mathematical genius Howard.
Yeah, and he went and said some shit that wasn't cool with the politics of the time, and they just got rid of him.
Yeah, that's right. So we got woke ass Don Cheadle instead. But anyway. I think that for me, it's all about first of all, what's the philosophy behind what's going on? What's the principles that we're looking at here? How can we universalize this? Because if you get caught up in specific names, unless you're using them as examples of a broader trend, which is why I wanted to talk about Johnny Depp, you get stuck in the present instead of looking at how has this how have things like this happened in the past, and how will things like this happen in the future? How can we recognize the signs so that we can call it out, and recognize it? So we need to look to the past so you can see it, and then use that to predict the future, which is literally what wisdom is. But anyway,
and
let me know what you guys think about the Johnny Depp thing. Sorry about all the trouble. What were you gonna say?
Oh, well, just real quickly, yeah, we as Americans, is why it's so important that we are not led by our pride and our virtue so much as our principles and our values, because it's
Yeah.
like that's really what it comes down to. Is if you have a good moral compass and discern for what things actually are, rather than how you're being led through them, that's how you remain strong and independent, and what this nation is supposed to be about. So
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks, guys. Let me look at some chat. I want to try and interact with the chat a little bit. So, Norwegian Black Templar says, coincidentally, Muslims just held a 10,000 Muslim march in Norway's capital. I doubt it's on accident. Uh-oh. Get ready. All right. Zara Chin says, do you mean to tell me that the standards for getting drugged up and shagging has changed over the last 50 years? Why can't we prosecute old behavior under new paradigm? Yeah. But like, has the paradigm even changed, really? Do you think that people are not getting high and having sex now? I mean, they are.
I mean, literally right now.
But if you're famous and powerful, though, then you probably should be very critical of doing that, because if you're famous and powerful, or might become famous and powerful, then this might be leveraged against you, and that's what you have to look out for. Norwegian Black Templar says the Earth has cooled and thawed 4 times. Why is global warming a problem now and not 400,000 years ago? Well, because 400,000 years ago, cave people weren't thinking about profiting off of that panic. That's why. Zara Chin says 97% of climate scientists operating on government and NGO grants agree, though. Noah says they force all the scientists to agree through their academic groups, or they just selected for who gets to have an opinion on it. That's really all it is. Right. John Ford, he mentioned earlier, said Johnny was in a band with Alice Cooper. It's called Hollywood Vampire. So thank you. Okay. Sorry, I just want to make sure. I'm going to try and interact with the chat a little bit more, read some of the comments that stand out for me. So, all right. Indeed. Let's move on to the next story. Speaking of women who got jobs that didn't deserve it, Gail Simone had some comments on I think she was doing an interview of some kind somewhere. So in June, she's a renowned comic book writer, okay? Let's say infamous. She worked on Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman, and Uncanny X-Men, and sparked controversy by describing critics of gender ideology as, quote, a cult masquerading as a social movement, end quote. Yeah, the gender fanatics are not the cult. The people who are critical of gender ideology, they're the cult. The comment highlighted by a post from Fandom Pulse was part of an ongoing online debate about gender-related issues. Simone, a vocal advocate for diversity and representation in comics, appeared to criticize opponents of gender ideology for what she perceives as dogmatic and organized opposition, rather than a legitimate social or political concern, which it is, right? But of course she says, oh, you're all bought and paid for by big normal people. Normal is coming after us. These
independent disconnected internet-based channels with people that just can barely even get a stream to maintain running all the way through. Yeah, we're a giant cult. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. We're the cult. The statement drew attention due to Simone's influential status in the comic industry and her history of addressing social issues, such as introducing Elisa Yo, the first transgender character in a mainstream Batman universe book. You might remember that one, because I remember the meme was going around. It was a woman with short hair, kind of like, lesbian haircut, but a female, and she was holding a baseball bat with trans flag on it, and that was like the joke is she's basically Batman, right? It was cringe, but it was in a comic book. While her comment aligns with her broader advocacy for marginalized groups, it also faced backlash from some who viewed it as dismissive of valid concerns. The full context of her original post remains unclear, but the mark reflects her tendency to use sharp, provocative language in cultural debates by calling us cultists, further highlighting the polarized nature of discussions around gender ideology. So, well, this is the thing. We all know this about these people, right? These smug activist types, they're so positive that they're right about everything. They feel entitled to hurl insults and call you names because you don't toe the line. But they also claim that their belief is the underdog belief too, which is weird because like you would think that if we were the ones that control the narrative, there would be no like gay marketing or any of that anywhere, but they're the ones that actually run things. That's why it's ubiquitous. But anyway, yeah, Gail Simone is crazy, and you know what? I want to bring up something else, but I want to get your thoughts on this first. So,
well, yeah, no, clearly, Gail is a nut job, but I got sent something to my Discord this week from one of the members there about performative allyship, and that's what all this stuff is. It's all a grift, to try to establish these new norms, that we're all supposed to adhere to and just kind of take as being sacrosanct, and you can't speak against them because the people in these positions of power are the ones that, like, we do not live in a grassroots society anymore, unfortunately. All these things come from the top down, right? And so, like, when we talk about things like Gamergate, and people are like, like sometimes people will be like, oh, well, as soon as we get rid of SBI, like everything will be back to normal. It's like, no, 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 no.
no.
SBI is a consulting firm. The consulting firm was sought out by the stakeholder, governance that is in play, run by the corporation, because ultimately it, fuels their ultimate agenda. And if they can go and they can put the consulting firm there in place to work as a cattle gate, then you either go through the gate and just are allowed to pass, or if you don't go along with it, then you're one of the cattle that gets slaughtered in this instance. And so that's why so many people that work in the game industry now in these AAA, quadruple A studios and whatever silly bullshit they want to market themselves as, you either have to take diversity courses, get yourself certified, all this kind of stuff to keep your job, or have like actual talent, skill, and ability, and never try to rise outside of the middle, because you've got activists just below you looking to leapfrog to get up to those positions of oversight. Or you've got these consulting firms that sit here and say, oh, well, if you don't do this, and it's all directed by the marketing, it's all directed by the PR, the HR, the ideological, capture and the indoctrination process that they use in the mill to just kind of get more people in those positions. Like when we were covering the thing from GDC yesterday, that says, where does queerness in gaming come from? I'm like, here. This panel right here, that's where it comes from. It's like like you doing this to the development cycle. That's where it comes from. It's not from the audience. It's not from, because if it were, then these games would be the things that actually set, records and sell amazingly well. There's a current game out right now called Date Everything. It's $30,
I know,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not selling all that great. Surprise, surprise.
No,
but if this were really right, I know. But if
you
really
want to play a game where you basically just are horny for everything in your house all the time, that sounds like a really intellectually
stimulating
deep
experience.
Yeah, like something that's right up there with Metal Gear Solid. That's like the same quality of like thought-provoking content. It's like Silent Hill 2.
Right. Or like right now, like well, just look at what happened with Suicide Squad. Since we are talking about Batman stuff, if that were actually something that were supported, that game wouldn't be getting sold for $3 right now on Steam.
Yeah.
Like there, it is because there are games that are far older that still are on sale right now that still cost more. Red Dead Online, still $15, came out nearly a decade ago, or not, I guess, a decade ago now, but it's came out in 2018, somewhere around there. So, but it's getting close to a decade, and it's still $15. So that's a game that has value, but something like Suicide Squad, the value completely dropped out of it, and now they just try to give it away. When the Veil Guard, Drag Queen Age Veil Guard happened, it is the shortest time frame from a game coming out. It premiered on October 31st of 2024, and then in February of this year, it was offered for free on the PlayStation Network. And so it was, I believe, 105 days had passed, if I remember correctly. And so they had to know about that stuff good 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. So they knew by the end of December, right? So 2 months later, they knew by the end of December that they had to offer this thing for free. It is the shortest period of time that has ever had a AAA release being offered for free in the history of the PlayStation Network.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah. So the thing about this is, by the way, the character that Gail Simone created that was memed everywhere.
Trans bat. Yep.
The trans person, whatever. So
right. Well, I was referring to the actual bat.
The actual bat.
Yeah, with this flag on it, the trans bat.
With the flag on it, of course.
Yeah.
How do you know it's a trans person if there isn't a flag on it? Like, this is like where we're at. Like, you have to make it explicit. There might as well be a giant, like, you know, red sign with a marquee and an arrow pointing at him saying trans person here, just so that you don't forget. Because, like, you know, heaven forbid you want to know what the fucking plot is. You know, but again, this is the good thing about that is that when they make it this explicit, you know, okay, I'm gonna avoid that and I'm just gonna like carry on with my day and not, you know, not get involved. So thanks, Gail Simone, for telling me, essentially, thank you for directing me away from your content. But okay, so I was gonna mention, I got some more chat I want to read out. Hello, Toasty with the Mosey. Hi, Zara Sin again, Norwegian Black Templar, Be Bad Sad, Master Goa, John Ford. So I want to read some more chat about this before I move on. Oh yeah, so here's the thing before I do that, here's the thing I wanted to mention. So there seems to be like the big fight about gender ideology in our popular culture. Interestingly enough, it's really centered around one particular figure in my mind, and that's J.K. Rowling. Because J.K. Rowling, the person who wrote Harry Potter, she is essentially, or was, a god to these people. A lot of these millennial writers and showrunners and actors, etc., they grew up during the Harry Potter, when Harry Potter was at its peak. I remember I worked at a gift shop when Harry Potter hit the United States, and the fervor was insane. Okay, like, children loved those books, and I'm glad, because it got them into reading, and that, you know, there wasn't a lot out there for kids.
Right.
So these people grew up worshiping the Harry Potter books and J.K. Rowling, and even when J.K. Rowling made all of these, like, you know, she did this virtue signaling about her books, like where she was like, Dumbledore is gay, you know, like this stuff that's kind of like, you can say it because it doesn't change your writing, and it'll like still appease people. They were like, they want to hear that, you know, like Dumbledore is gay and Hermione could be black. Why not? Right? It was up to you. Like this kind of like permissive, you know, stuff, which of course the woke ate that up. And these are the same kids that grew up reading these books, right? And then J.K. Rowling committed the horrible, horrible sin of saying men can't be women.
Right.
And that it just blew up the spot, because not only did you have a person saying this thing that you can't say, but she's not someone you can simply dismiss as a bigot or a redneck, because she's also the person that created Harry Potter and also went along with, essentially, J.K. Rowling agrees with the woke on like 99% of all of the things that they also agree with, except for that. It's the one thing that that she does not agree with them on. Okay, and so the result of J.K. Rowling and her opinion on transgenderism is that I think that she's actually like one of the originators or the original TERFs, as they are referred to, right? Yes. Trans exclusionary radical feminists.
Yep.
And the reason why I bring this up, because I think it's because the left, these global homos, these gay race communists, they want hegemony in terms of the culture. They want the culture, especially the most prominent figures of culture, to all be on the same ideological page as like each other, right? Yeah. And when someone as influential as J.K. Rowling goes against the grain, even a tiny bit, they do everything in their power to try to exclude her. I know that she's gotten death threats, and I normally take claims of people getting death threats with a grain of salt, but I do know that the trans community is like absolutely psychotic, and they will get violent. And I'm not just talking about the trans women, I mean the trans men as well. because they obviously have something broken in them, like that is why they're like trying to identify as something different.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things I'm bringing this up for is because another person that has been fighting a lot with J.K. Rowling, and I didn't make this one a story, but I did want it to like use the Gail Simone thing to sort of dovetail into it, is Hollywood's favorite man right now, Pedro Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the thing about Pedro Pascal, well, obviously he's been like taking swings at J.K. Rowling, and of course everybody's here for it. All the troons and weirdos online are here for it because they want someone prominent to be a counter voice. And I don't think it's an accident that Pedro Pascal has become, let's say, like unusually popular and present. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, he's getting into everything now.
Mm-hmm.
He's in like 4
He's like Zendaya.
What?
I say he's like Zendaya.
Yeah, he's like Zendaya, or what's the name of the black woman that's in like every video game?
You're talking about Kim Bel-Air.
No, not Kim Bel-Air. No. She's like an older black woman with bug eyes. She's in like everything. She's in like, you guys know who I'm talking about. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
It might be like, I don't remember, but you guys know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just mentioned Kim Bel-Air because every game that she's seemingly involved in, every character model is seemingly like some variant of her. Yeah.
No. This is a different black woman that's in everything. But I think that the reason why, and I wanted to use this to get into another topic.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro Pascal is essentially the new man,
right?
The new man in that he is like the as Karl Marx referred to the social man. Are you guys familiar with the social man? There's a certain kind of man, ideal man or person, really, but like in this case, it's a man. Right. That is, I think that they're using Pedro Pascal as the new man. He's like the representative of a new masculinity, a new type of masculinity that's softer, that's passive, that's, effeminate, low testosterone. He is the guy. Like, why is it he's playing Reed Richards, he's playing Mando. I don't remember the Mandalorian's real name. I don't really give a shit. He's in that movie that's like, I don't want to say, it's either Ari Aster or somebody else. I can't remember his name, but it's about like it's supposedly a Western, like a modern Western is what they're calling it, and it's about like COVID during 2020 and like all of the tensions and stuff, and he's in that with like Joaquin Phoenix.
I can't say that I'm aware of it.
He's in everything. He's like an omnipresent guy now. Right. And I think the reason is because they're trying to create a new model of masculinity that is, like I said, passive, weak, low T. Deborah Wilson, thank you. Yep. Deborah Wilson, that's the chick. Yes, thank you, Zarasin. Yes, Deborah Wilson is in everything. She's even in the Jedi Fallen Order game, which I love, but she's in that, and I'm just... She's like the weirdest. She looks like the host of the old Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego game show that was on like public broadcasting. Yep. But anyway, so Pedro Pascal is the new social man, and they're pushing him in, and they're basically trying to use him to sort of dethrone J.K. Rowling as like a cultural icon. That's what I think is happening. So I wanted to point that out because the Gail Simone thing led me into the LGBT thing, which led me into talking about J.K. Rowling, who, again, on every other level, she's a super woke feminist. I'm not a friend of hers. I'm not an ally of hers. I'm not a fan of her ideology. I think it's how we got here. Like, what she's mad at is something that her ideas caused. Like, what, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's downstream from that. So I'm no fan of hers, but this is like where the fight is happening. It's basically like the woke fighting the woke for woke dominance, and the normal people are just kind of like, onlookers. Well, obviously we can go and do our own thing, which was what we should do. And I think that is what's happening, because it looks like a lot of these new projects are failing. So
And all this stuff was actually predicted even in fiction. Kurt Vonnegut, he wrote Harrison Bergeron, and that's a whole story about handicapping the strong. So because the weak need to be catered to, and so it's like it was basically he was explaining all these things that are based on concepts of equity rather than actual fairness through or quality through fairness of like hey, what you do with your situation and how you play through it, that's on you,
Mm-hmm.
but when you go and you try to like say, well, there's a social construct that's going to make sure that the outcomes are leveled, then the easiest way to do that is the point of Harrison Bergeron is they go and they stack weight on you if you're strong, and they try to get it to the point that like you're incapable of moving at top speed and all this kind of stuff. But even in Harrison Bergeron, everything they did didn't work because all those things they tried to make someone strong weaker merely just reinforce their strength. And like once those chains were broken off of him, once the clown nose was taken off his face, because he was a good looking dude and all this kind of stuff, it's like you can't actually stop something that has actual principles and values and is led by its intention, because this stuff that's led by identity politics and agenda and everything like that, it's a thin veneer that is hollow, and so once you punch through that, people see it for what it is. And and that's why they constantly end up looking like rake steppers, and they lose in the court of public opinion, and when actual business is being conducted. And so that's why they go back to these covert means, and they try to do everything through bureaucracy and like the DEI deep state, as I like to refer
Mm-hmm.
to it, like because that's all this stuff has ever been about, is trying to make sure that they can handicap anybody that actually has some actual measure of character and real strength. Like when I got attacked by the genderqueer niece, and yet
Yeah.
I had to be responsible for her actions, even though she's the one who attacked me,
Mm-hmm.
and even but again, like I said, I had to deal with law enforcement through the legal system. They didn't care. They told me in court it didn't matter even if I was defending myself. They had
Yeah.
the law was on their side to just go and levy these charges against me, and it was the state that put the charges on me. And even when their case fell apart, they still the judge was like, I could easily just give you disturbing the peace and this whole thing will go away, but I want to see you suffer. And it's like, all right, so this is, you are using your position of power to rule against someone, and you're not actually even using your position as a judge to rule
Yeah.
through discernment and fairness. And that's what these things
Yeah.
are. It's
Yeah.
it's an insanity.
Yeah, for sure. Well said. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I know we went on a little bit of a digression, a little bit, but yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts. So, Master Goa gave us $5 and said on YouTube, thank you. And he says,
Mhm.
science functions like a commie union that decides via consensus. Scientists of their day said the Wright brothers were wrong. Science hasn't changed. Yes,
Yep.
it is like a popularity contest too. And again, like if you want to get tenure, if you want to get those checks, then you got to like toe the line. And that's why, we can't really, I'm sorry, but I don't blame anyone for not trusting anything the science
Yep.
puts out. So, especially after the last couple of years. All right. So, John Ford says the Duke Nukem show coming to Netflix might be woke. Oh, it will be, because I know the guy, I think his name is
Oh yeah,
Adi Shankar or
Adi
something like
Shankar,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy who ruined Devil May Cry. So, yeah, I don't know. Might be is very, very, very generous. It's definitely going to be woke. Besides, do we really even need a Duke Nukem show? Like, what are you going to do?
I know, like Duke Nukem is the prototype. Hail to the king, baby, shake it.
Yeah.
Like, and my good friend Furious Dan, he actually felted Adi Shakar this week, because like he does like this punch meme where like he just looks for
Yeah.
like the woke person of the day who's kind of like rake stepping, and it's just a simple little meme, and it just plays some music, and you just see like this fucking left cross come through the screen and just pop him right in the face, and like spit goes flying everywhere. And so he
Yeah.
dropped that on Adi Shakur this week on X, and Adi Shakur ended up reposting it, and then like got himself felted in the process. And then the guy for WDG Games or WDT Games the very next day. Also, he did
Yeah.
it to the guy that Hypno felt it for coming out and sitting here saying, I haven't sold a game in 2 years, and it's the fault of the right wing and like all this kind of stupid shit. It's like, dude, if you haven't sold a game in 2 years, that's not just one political ideology
It's not the
or
right
the
way.
other.
It's you.
It's you, dude.
It's
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
And he ended up, deleting his X account within a couple of days of all that stuff because, so many people were just saying, yeah, man, like you're sitting here like doing all this alienation and all this stuff that just it doesn't make sense. Like you can't do good business because you can't do good business. It's not
right.
It's not because
of
anything else.
Well, that's why they end up hating capitalism, because they hate they hate that they fail. All right, another comment. Norwegian Black Templar says Arkham Knight was the last game with Arkham Batman. Changed my mind. Yes, no, I'm not going to bother. You're right, 100%. Let me see what else. I already said hello to Tosi, so hello. Norwegian Black Templar says tranny. We got a tranny here. See, nobody cares. Nice hat. You got to add nice hat after a pause. Let me see. Bob the Darkest Fairy says men are the new women. Women, that's so like yesterday. I like the ones with wombs. That's such an old idea. Okay, let me see. Bob the Darkest Fairy says it's all forced behaviors. Yes, it's pressure. Valkyria Winter 1886 says Duke Nukem show will crash like the DMC one. Sadly, as DMC and Duke games are great to play. Yeah, DMC games, even for the games, had a great story too. Right. Well, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think games need to be more like movies, and I'm very critical of that because that's how you bring in this kind of activist crap. And then you're going to get games that are trying to be movies, and then you're going to get games that want to be Oscar bait movies. And the Oscar bait is where they like get in all the messaging. But on the flip side of that, I also don't think that games need to be adapted to movies or shows either, because like, how are you going to get? You're either going to get the same thing, which you could just experience as a game, or you're going to get some inferior product because you're working with less in terms of your interaction. You're just watching as a passive observer as opposed to playing the game.
Right.
Just my opinion. I know it's not popular. Very few games have been successfully adapted to film or television. Very few. So we saw what happened with The Last of Us Season 2. Like, after they killed Joel, just like the game, the viewership just dropped off a cliff, as it should have. So,
yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, games, immersion comes through flow states. Our fancy graphics, nice, sure, but they're ultimately irrelevant. You find something that actually, like, captivates you, and, like, you can just get into that groove. That's what a game is for. Tetris doesn't have a story, but oddly enough, they have a movie option for that right now that's running through Hollywood, and God knows what they're going to try to do with that. So, like, it's, but yeah, movies are not games. They're a completely unique form of media. They can encompass aspects of, sound, light, vision, like all these things. They do not need to operate under those, constraints to actually be able to work in a way that speaks to an actual gaming-based audience, because it's not about that stuff. Like that is the parsley on the side of the steak.
Yeah.
And everybody's up for the steak, not the parsley.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Master Girl, last thing I'll read from it, then we'll move on to the next story, because we had a little bit of some issues and I got a lot of catching up to do. But Adi Shankar is too feminine to handle male-oriented franchises. Yes, but don't you think it's interesting that he keeps getting the franchises? Like, they know he's gaying them up. They know it. So why would they give him some of the most masculine archetypes in gaming if it wasn't on purpose? And I'm telling you, it is on purpose, because it's an attack on masculinity. It always has been. He might try to ruin Berserk next. Well, of course, it's masculine. Anything masculine is going to get destroyed. It's under attack. They're going to give it to people like Adi Shankar to adapt, because he's gonna like he did it to Castlevania, which you mentioned in the chat. He did it to Castlevania. I watched a little bit of that show and I was like, this is too gay for me. This is not Castlevania. They made like Dracula's wife, a girl boss, scientist that the church does not understand, as though those things are just like in their opposites, which is ridiculous. I was like, nah, this is way too on the nose propaganda.
Right.
I'm sorry, it was just trash. Some people liked it. I thought it was trash, like from the get go. But anyway,
and even I was gonna say
go
really
ahead.
quickly, based on his own admission, the whole reason why he went after Duke Nukem as a property was because he didn't realize that Devil May Cry was still an active property that people, were attached to and was still vibrant and vital. And so he was
dude,
he went and he sought out something that hadn't had a game or anything like that in over a decade, and he landed on Duke Nukem, the most testosterone fueled machismo based game.
I mean, it's a parody of it in fact, like to a degree, right? It's so over the top. It's kind of like how there are movies that are trying to they overextend the masculine representation to be a little bit cartoonish, like Rocky IV, like Predator, like RoboCop, but they end up being like completely badass, like unironically badass movies.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, he's gonna gay it up, and they're gonna give him more stuff to gay up, and it's totally on purpose. It's not an accident. He's not misinformed. It's by design. But anyway, speaking of masculinity, I am so excited to announce that on June 26, 2025, Warner Brothers Japan unveiled a new visual and confirmed a 2026 premiere for reboot anime adaptation of The Fist of the North Star. Hokuto no Ken, celebrating the manga's 40th anniversary. So this was the original shonen. This was the thing that made shonen shonen. Shonen is manga or comics for boys, and Hokuto no Ken is the progenitor of that. Like before that, you had things like Astro Boy and some of the boxing stuff, but this one is the first shonen. At least it's credited as the first shonen. Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, originally announced in September 13th, 2023, so it was announced a while back, coinciding with the manga's debut, the series will feature a fresh cast and modern animation technology aiming to faithfully adapt Bronson and Tetsuo Ohara's iconic post-apocalyptic tale. The story follows, in case you guys don't know what Hokuto no Ken is, the story follows Kenshiro, a master of the deadly Hokuto Shinken martial art, as he protects the innocent in a nuclear-ravaged wasteland, confronting villains like his rival Shin and his brother Rao. A teaser visual was released with further details expected at Anime Expo 2025 in Los Angeles on July 6th. Fans on X expressed excitement, but cautious optimism, which I understand, citing the lack of a specific release date and studio information, and also the fact that it's a modern adaptation. Like they didn't say it's going to be a modern, but they're going to give it an up to date in terms of animation and stuff. Right. But some people are let's just put it like this. I'm cautiously optimistic because all they have to do is stick to what the comics were, and we're golden. Even the old TV series that came out in the 80s that I still have all 160 episodes of. That one had a lot of filler in it, and it took some liberties that the book did not do. So if they keep it straight up just what the book had, or the books rather, I think this could be amazing. So anyway, but I'm hoping for high quality animation that is better than the original series ran from 1984 to 1988. So anyway, yeah, Hokuto no Ken, The Fist of the North Star is coming back. So there you go.
Nice.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Have you ever heard of this before?
Oh yeah, no. I watched Fist of the North Star. Back in the '80s, I had a satellite. So I used to be able to catch stuff. But it's been a few years since I've watched it. But bringing it up, you remind me that there was a Fist of the North Star game that came out a few years ago, and I think I'm gonna go check.
I have all of the Fist of the North Star games. I have all of them.
Right.
I do. I love this franchise. It's there's so in the world of anime, I don't watch a ton of it, but I am a fan of what I call manime, which is the manly anime, and there's not a lot of it out there, but there are some. I mean, you could say Dragon Ball Z kind of counts, but I think of it as there's a trifecta. There's three big anime that are they are the holy trinity of manime. Okay, one is a book series that should also get readapted. They had an anime show of it, but they didn't. They ended up cutting it short, and it came out in the 80s as well. It was called Sakigake Otokojuku, which is basically a man school, so comedy but action. Definitely a shonen, but it had a lot of comedic elements in it. That one's the least known of the three, but if you can watch it, Sakigake Otokojuku, you can find it clips on YouTube and stuff. That one is one of them. It has a great theme, and it's a fun show. And there's a lot of inspiration from that show that went on to be represented in other games and stuff. The other one is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, of course, which I'm a big fan of. And that one, and then there's Hokuto no Ken, which is basically the top of the pyramid of manly anime, the Fist of the North Star. So, Cal Arts version of Fist of the North Star. Great Endorse says Cal Arts version. Bean Mouth, Fist of the North Star. Please don't. Ergo says JoJo Part 6 was good, so maybe. Yeah, because the Warner Brothers Japan did release JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean, and that one was pretty well animated. So if they get the same budget for Fist of North Star. And the thing is, Fist of North Star is legendarily popular in Japan. Like, it's everywhere, and it is an icon of Japanese culture. So I think that they should not be cheap with this. They should definitely not cut corners. So the John Ford says the JoJo Gamer Subs flavor is good. What does that taste like? Master Goa says I had a Fist of North Star game on the Genesis, and I never knew it till a decade later. Yeah, it was Last Battle. Last Battle was a Fist of North Star game, but they changed the names and localization. Yeah, because Fist of North Star was not unknown in America. So they wanted to release the game, but they had to change it. There was also a Fist of North Star on the 8-bit NES. There was a Fist of North Star on Game Boy. Basically, like, every platform had Fist of North Star games. There was one on the PS1. There was one on the PS2, but it was like only in Japan. There was the Muso, like Koei Tecmo, put out a Fist of North Star called Ken's Rage and Ken's Rage 2. The people who developed Yakuza, they made a Fist of North Star game. I have those games as well. Then there was the fighting game put out by Arc System Works, which you can only get in Japan. So there's a lot of that. Anyway, it's peach flavored. Well, that seems odd. But anyway, so I don't want to take too much time on this. I just want to let you all know I'm paying attention. I'll follow up when we get like a trailer or something for this anime whenever they make it. Okay. So I want to get into some of the main stories, but I don't have anything to display yet now because I gotta be a little bit efficient because I want to get into two big stories. One is the Capcom Spotlight. Mm-hmm. The other one is, this one's a big one too, Stop Killing Games. So, right. But let's look at the Capcom Spotlight first. So on June 26, 2025, Capcom hosted a 40-minute Spotlight live stream where they unveiled updates for 4 major titles: Monster Hunter Wilds, Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, and Street Fighter 6. The event streamed on Capcom's YouTube and Twitch channels with subtitles in 13 languages, highlighted new content and gameplay details, though no major new game announcements were made. So the only one I think I want to touch on a little bit more is the Resident Evil and Pragmata, as well as Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. They were showing off some other things too. I think like Onimusha, because they're coming out with a remake, I think, of the original Onimusha. Stone Ocean Fruit, that makes sense. Yeah, it's Florida peach, right? Okay, so let's look at this Kunitsugami. So I didn't actually I knew about this game, but I didn't know it was as well received as it was. So I'm just going to look at the trailer for this. This is an update for it. I heard that this game is absolutely awesome, but for whatever reason, it didn't get a lot of press for it. Like, it doesn't have the same hype around it. So this is Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess.
Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, will celebrate its 1-year anniversary next month. We have prepared a small token of our appreciation for the many fans who have played the game. Presenting Yashichi Waves, a Mazo talisman that changes some music in the main game to 8-bit style.
Oh, that's weird.
This can be obtained in a free update available at a later date to both new and existing players. Please look forward to the update coming soon.
You guys know what the Yoshida is? Isn't that what this is called? That symbol? You guys, are you familiar with that? This is like an old school thing. Are you familiar with the Yoshida?
I can't say that I am, specifically. It does look kind of like a swastika kind of thing.
Well,
so I'm assuming it's the original meaning
I
behind
guess
that.
that's one way to look at it. I didn't really think of it that way, but
well, I mean, like the original meaning behind it before, of course, it got all like
yeah, it was a Buddhist thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's a cross of sorts, and it was Buddhist in its original, but it was also the Nazis. They tilted it on 45-degree angle and changed obviously, like they changed the meaning of it. It would seem forever, but I don't think so.
Right.
I think that is fleeting as well. So, all right. Well, the Yoshida is that symbol there. It basically appeared in all of Capcom's very old games, and it was just kind of like. Let me look into it a little bit. Hold on. I'm gonna ask Grok.
Indeed.
All right, let's see if it knows. I may have misspelled it, but I think it was called the Yoshida. Yashichi, a recurring emblem in their games. So the Yashichi is a pinwheel-like emblem recurring across Capcom's games, not related to the Yoshida clan, because I guess some people confuse it. It appeared in a game called Vulgus that came out in 1984. It was an enemy in that game. So orange circle with a stylized white cross. Inspired by the TV show Mito Komon. So now I want to know what that is. I'm just curious. Let's see. What is it? Mito Komon is a Japanese Jida Igeki or period drama that was on primetime television from 1969 to 2011. Wow, that's crazy. All right. Well, anyway, so yeah, it appears in a lot of other games as well. I remember it would be in the original Mega Man game. You could pick it up and it would refill everything. And it was only one in the entire first Mega Man game. It only appears once at the very end, and that's the only time you see it, if I remember correctly. It's just kind of a weird little thing that Capcom used to do all the time. So interesting that they brought that back. So anyway, going back to, sorry, that was a digression. So
it's all good.
Going back to this, so then, so I heard lots of good things about Kunitsugami, and there was Resident Evil Requiem. So let me look for that really quick. They showed some gameplay of it, and it looks like you're going to be able to choose, which I think is kind of neat. You're going to be able to choose whether you want to play it in first or third person.
Right.
So that looks pretty good too.
Did you hear anything about the story about how they were originally planning on it being an open world thing, and then they finally were like, someone was like, "Hey, that's not what this game's known for. Maybe not do that."
Yeah, I did. They showed some leaked gameplay. There was of like a potential Resident Evil 9 that looked a lot more like an action game. Well, basically, probably more in line with what Resident Evil 6 turned into, like became, if you've ever played Resident Evil 6. It could be that, but yeah. Okay. So anyway, this is just a little bit of the gameplay of
遊ぶことが
RE9.
でき
This
ます。
guy's talking
主観視
over
点だ
it.
とその恐怖を間近
You
に
can
感じるこ
experience
とが
it
で
up
きて、
close.
緊張
So
感
they've
のあ
got
る
first
臨場感のあ
person,
る、ゲームプレイっていう
which
のが
looks
可
pretty
能になり
good,
ます。
or
三
third
人称視点
person.
だとキャラクタ
Was
ーの
over the
肩越しで
shoulder.
の視点というところで
Right, right.
アクション、そういったところが
And
よく
one of
見
the
える
things that I
ゲームプレイ
like
にな
they're
ると思
doing
い
with
ます
this,
の
which
で、
is makes
アク
me
ションが好
very
きだなって
optimistic
思う
for
方に
Resident
は、
Evil 9,
三人称視点の方がおすすめです。
is I'm pausing it there. The people behind this seem to recognize that while people do want to see their fan favorite characters from the games, the problem is that it's harder to believe that those characters can be frightened because like they've experienced so much of the game story.
Right.
So they're introducing new characters with personalities that are more fitting for a story that is focused on horror. So that's why they changed the protagonist. It's not a girl boss thing. I doubt that they're going that route. They based the character, which I think I mentioned the last time we talked about this when it was like sort of announced, on she's basically the daughter of a character that appeared in another game called Resident Evil Outbreak, which was this 4-player co-op online. It was one of the first online games on the in the Resident Evil series. It was the first one. And you had to work together to like escape, and all the characters were just normal people in like a situation. They weren't like cops, they weren't special forces, nothing like that. And so they're bringing this character in who's like part of like a federal agency, but she's not, she's not a
He's a desk jockey.
soldier. She's like a desk jockey, exactly. And she's also like, very she's got like she's sensitive, like she's afraid of things, right? So she's like a scary character, and I think that's a good way to do it because I mean it works for Silent Hill. That's what worked, right? So like the protagonists of those games were just normal people in these situations. So she's obviously going to like be able to use a gun because these games do require that, but they are going that route, and so I think that really is promising. It's a good way to like keep this franchise going. That, and again, it is going to be taking place in Raccoon City, which is also a very big thing. A lot of people wanted a return to one of these characters that we know. Let me play this here. This is
その
Raccoon
当
City
時
bombed
アンブレ
out.
ラ事件っていうのでシリーズがヒットして、それ以降もさまざまなキャラクターたちが、いろんなラクーンシティって起きた事件をきっかけに
Leon,
立ち向かっていくようになったり、人間
what's her
成長
name?
したり、
I forget.
そこに
Claire,
今回この表現のメスを入れるっていうのが
Jill,
作り手としてはやっぱりかなり緊張感を持って臨ませてもらったっていうのが大きかったですね。
ラクーン事件に関わった、もしくはラクーン事件に巻き込まれて大きく人生を変わってしまったり、命を落としてしまったりと、そういった登場人物がたくさん出ます。レクイエムは彼らに向けての言葉通り鎮魂であり、もっと言うとバイオハザードシリーズ、ラクーン事件アンブレラをきっかけに生まれたシリーズのある種一つの区切りという意味でレクイエムというタイトルをつけています。
バイオハザード
All right. So anyway, it looks good. I just wanted to point that out. I think that the other one I wanted to mention was Pragmata, which I'm starting to. I have a theory about this one. Okay, I think that Pragmata might be a Mega Man game in disguise.
Right.
That's what I think. And we'll watch this trailer too, so I can show you all.
Using Capcom's newest IP, Pragmata. An all-new science fiction action-adventure with a unique hacking twist. It's been a while
There's
since we
just a lot of
first announced
visual
it,
homages
but
to
we're excited to
Right.
have the game ready for
Mega
you
Man
in
in it.
2026. Today, we will go over some of the unique points of Pragmata.
Did you see that? Like
Encountering
the
Pragmata.
girl has
yeah.
there's like a little girl and that you escort, and she's got like this it's like a buster
Blaster
arm
arm.
almost.
Encountering an android with a heart.
Yeah, and it's an
You
android.
play as Hugh Williams, a member of a team sent to investigate a lunar research facility that's lost contact. When a lunar quake strikes, Hugh is separated from the team. He finds himself saved by Diana, an android girl.
There you are. All better.
Now they must work together to return to Earth. Hugh, a bit sarcastic, but a kind soul. And Diana, a curious and enigmatic android. This is how an unlikely adventure between a human and android begins. A mix of puzzle and action.
What is this
In
narrator?
Pragmata, combat begins with disarming the enemy's armor. Otherwise, you will find it difficult to inflict any real damage. This is where Diana comes in. Let's use her hacking ability on this enemy. Moving the cursor through the panel, you take down their armor. And now, it's Hugh's turn. Take aim at the enemy's weak points. Passing through more blue nodes increases damage, and the enemy's armor stays exposed for longer. With an arsenal of unique weapons, take on the rampaging bots. What enemy will you hack first? What weapon will you use?
All right, I think you guys get the gist of it. It kind of like, it might even have, you know, there was that Mega Man game on portables where you were kind of like, instead of a robot, you were like a program, and I think you fought viruses. I forget what it's called. It's like Mega Man something network. I never played those because they were on portable. But yeah, I mean, like Capcom had a pretty decent showing with those two. I think that, you know, they still have some work to do in terms of earning the trust of consumers. But I hope that they will continue to, like, you know, just basically listen to the fans, you know?
Yeah.
So, and just give them what they want. And speaking of listening to the fans, let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. There isn't much else to say about the Capcom showcase, but speaking of listening to the fans, so you guys heard about this Stop Killing Games thing? Because I just learned about this one the other day. I saw it, like, whispers about it around. Do you know anything about this, John?
Yeah, we covered it months and months ago. Back
Yeah, it's
on
been going on for a while.
Yeah, but it started back in April of 2024. I believe they're trying to get to 1 million signatures. They just this week got up to 600,000, but its deadline is right around the corner in the next few days. So, as I understand, but there's been evidently an online kerfuffle that has possibly stifled its intention.
Yes.
And I assume that's what we're going to get into.
Yes, we're going to be talking about that, but also just it in general, and like what, because this is actually a complex issue, and I want to give it the amount of time that it deserves. So, okay, so for those of you who don't know, the Stop Killing Games initiative was launched in April of 2024 by YouTuber Ross Scott of Accursed Farms. Okay, I've never heard of this guy, but like that's where it came from. Okay, The initiative aims to prevent video game publishers from rendering purchased games unplayable after official support ends, particularly for live service titles. Okay, that sounds good, right? I mean, it makes sense because, well, a lot of games do. They kind of like they do stuff underground, like where they continue to support games, not live service games, but like games that have like a massive online component. For example, I think that I know that Dean told me there was a game on the PS3 called Warhawk, which had like a big online multiplayer, and that they found a way to like keep it going, but it's more like it's private servers or something.
Yeah.
And Alien vs. Predator 2, which is like really old, and people still play that one online. And even the MMO RPG City of Heroes has seen a revival despite the servers being taken down a long time ago. But there's very few people that still play it, but it still exists. So if it was something like that, I could understand it, because there are a lot of games where, you know, you like the online component is the game. And you're like, well, why am I investing all this money in something that they're just going to shut down, right?
Right.
So
yeah, there's the Bionic Commando that I picked up a couple weeks back when it was on sale, and I was able to get the Bionic Commando Rearmed and the 2009 3D sequel.
I have that one.
Yeah. There is evidently a group of people that made it so that you can do LAN via internet. Because
Sweet.
yeah, and so these to me, like, a lot of this stuff seems, when you used to get games, they allowed decentralized game hosting. And it used to just
Yeah.
kind of be like, like part and parcel of the whole thing. But then they wanted to get into like these centralized networks where they basically you have to be authorized and it has to have access into the
Yeah,
authentication.
Friday the 13th is another example. Somebody in the chat
Yep.
just mentioned it. It's another one that they want to keep it running. Yeah, they're still working on doing that, actually. I think that they did. Even like old online games with the old Resident Evil Outbreak. Then what's the Fightcade is doing that as well. So there's lots of examples. But go ahead, John. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. But yeah, like it just used to be one of those things where, private hosting servers and making it decentralized so that you can actually be invested in the thing that you want. This doesn't seem like it shouldn't be that much of a difficult thing to do in the development, because it used to be the way that it was before all this centralized, service-based model networks came into fruition. And you see it more and more and more frequently now, because they do want you to be paying for Xbox's Game Pass, the PlayStation Network. Nintendo's now even doing it themselves. And all these things are just a way to keep you on the mill, and so you always have to, get the new thing because it's planned obsolescence, rather than like, say like, there are people that are still playing, StarCraft, from way back in the day, because it was built with the whole idea of like you can have your own private servers, and it's just something that only fell out of fashion because the powers that be decided that they wanted to have the power to control your ability to have access to stuff, and so in principle, I fully support the idea that games should always be developed with the idea of decentralizing and ultimately giving it to the fan community, because that's what's going to be the thing that sustains you. Game development these days it takes way too long, and so and you can't ever necessarily guarantee you're going to have a big bombastic hit that's just going to have the staying power as something like Grand Theft Auto Online, right? But you don't have to be Grand Theft Auto Online. You just have to have like an actual quality audience. And if you serve them well and give them the opportunity to actually stay connected as a fan community by giving them the tools necessary to do that work for you, then you don't have to worry about having some kind of, server access fee that you have to pay year in and year out and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it only makes sense to actually give the power to the players.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let me see here. So Master Goa says there are fan servers for Phantasy Star Online and Metal Gear Online. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to this. So this was sparked by Ubisoft's shutdown of The Crew, which left even its single-player mode inaccessible. The campaign argues that such practices amount to planned obsolescence and undermine consumer rights. So The Crew was like a racing game, I think, that like you could connect and you could race anywhere in the world and play with anyone in the world. It was very ambitious, but they ended up taking it down. Scott's initiative seeks 1 million signatures by July 31st, so that's like the day after tomorrow, actually, or just a couple days from now, for a European citizens initiative to push for EU legislation requiring publishers to provide offline modes or server tools to keep games playable post-shutdown. Supporters like Moist Critical and Some Ordinary Gamers backed this movement, emphasizing the preservation of gaming history. As of January 2024, the petition had reached 47% of its goal, but faced challenges in gaining momentum. The controversy escalated when Jason Thor Hall, known as Pirate Software, a Twitch streamer and indie developer, by the way, used to work for Blizzard, I believe, publicly criticized SKG in a YouTube video in August of 2024. Hall, who works on live service game Rivals 2 at Off-Brand Games, argued the initiative is vague, unrealistic, and potentially harmful to developers. He claimed it could restrict the creation of online-only games like MMOs or MOBAs, citing technical issues like server maintenance costs, security risks from exploits, and licensing problems. such as expiring car licenses in The Crew. Hall also asserted that games purchase licenses, not games, which can be legally revoked, a point Scott countered by noting this is a legal gray area in the EU. On June 23rd, 2025, Scott released a video addressing Hall's critiques, accusing him of misrepresenting SKG's goals, such as falsely claiming it demands perpetual game support or converting multiplayer games to single player, and spreading misinformation that stalled the petition's progress. Scott emphasized Stop Killing Games only seeks playable end-of-life solutions, not ongoing developer support, and cited examples like Counter-Strike 1.6, where private servers keep games alive. And we've just listed off a bunch of other examples as well.
Yep.
The feud intensified as Hall doubled down, posting and later deleting an X response accusing Scott's community of toxicity and brigading his streams. He maintained his stance, arguing Stop Killing Games' framework could harm the industry, particularly for smaller developers. Hall's strong reaction, described as uncharacteristically emotional and defensive, has drawn scrutiny. Critics, including Louis Rossman and X-users, suggest his opposition stems from a conflict of interest as a live service game developer, accusing him of prioritizing corporate interests over consumers. Some fans expressed disappointment, noting Hall's history of banning dissenters from his streams and Discord, which they see as stifling debate. Others, however, argue his technical critiques, such as potential IP and security issues, merit consideration, though Scott and supporters claim these are exaggerated or addressed in SKG's FAQ. The controversy, amplified by figures like Asmongold reacting to Hall's video, has created a polarized debate, with some seeing Hall's influence as a setback to Stop Killing Games' momentum. No direct connection exists between this controversy. Oh, no, never mind that part. So it's okay. So there's a couple things here I just want to say. I think that the Stop Killing Games initiative is right. I agree with it in principle. I am a little bit, this is my thing, okay? Whenever you involve the government in something, you are risking a lot more than you think you are. And I don't think that asking the EU to do something about this is the way forward. I do think it helps to be a little bit more, let's say less vague, but what I think it's a little unfair for him to say that the verbiage is too vague on the Stop Killing Games thing, because the thing is that they're just putting out a proposal. So you're just basically saying, look, I want to fix this. This is a problem. Mastergoa says pirate software is clearly lying. Raindor says La Chapa, the girdle belt snappa. Darkest Fairy Bob says EU is a scam government. Yeah, so they're asking the EU. I assume it's because the guy Ross Scott, he must be European. I'm guessing Accursed Farms, and that's why he's doing that.
Yeah, it's out of the UK.
Yeah, so he's out of the UK, or well, the UK isn't part of the EU either. If I remember, they Brexited, right?
I can't remember exactly where in Europe, but yeah, it is over because I remember when we covered that's Ryan because we did it on reality based at the time. He was very interested in the measure itself. So, but yeah, I know it's from that part of the world at least. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll keep it just short so that you can rant about this if you want to. So I agree with Stop Killing Games as an initiative. I think that this Jason Hall guy or Pirate Software is being really, really uncharitable. I understand the concerns, but I don't think that he's concerned about the right things, because like I would be concerned about involving any government, even my own. So I'm not saying this is just to pick on the EU, even though I think the EU is demonic. But any government involved in this, because what the fuck do politicians know about gaming? They don't know shit about it. They don't even understand like anything they create legislation around, even if it is to, let's say, what is it? For European Citizens Initiative to push for EU legislation requiring publishers to provide offline modes or server tools to keep games playable. So like, I don't think the EU is going to do that right. They're going to drop the ball. They're going to mishandle it, and it's going to just become another way the government overreaches. But in in terms of what the sentiment is, I'm 100% behind this. I think that there should be access to some kind of like access to the game's tools, or servers, or maybe you can like link your own servers privately like we already do with so many other games. That should be allowed. But like the thing is, think about where this came from. So The Crew, which was a racing game, when Ubisoft shut it down, they didn't just shut down the online, they shut down the offline.
Right.
So they shut down the whole thing. That's ridiculous. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, I should be able to go back and play anything that I own, even if like I if the game has an online component to it, I could see maybe dropping into a world where there's nobody there. Maybe.
Right.
But like, or fighting bots if it's like a multiplayer thing, But I think that the reaction it comes from how Ubisoft handled The Crew, and I think that again, we're already doing this. We already mentioned a bunch of examples. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and then I would say the exact same thing is just this Pirate Software's take does seem very myopic and a vested interest if he's primarily interested in having these subscription-based kind of services, and if you want to have that be a part of a game, I guess to each their own, but there's people in the chat saying, Norwegian Black Templar, I believe he said, he never bothers with subscription-based games. Neither do I. I've never really been all that interested in it. And when it becomes something that it has even happened subtly, I played Red Dead Online for a number of years, and now because I'm not playing for PSN, all that stuff, it's just I'm not going to be able to maintain that. I have to start an entire new game account. Same thing with GTA Online because of the PSN connection. That's why I'm in the process now of just putting everything that I can into my Steam library, and stuff that will actually be viable without these barriers of entry that are paywalled. And so if you say, like, look at a game like Death Stranding, and now Death Stranding 2 has just come out, and it is a massive online single player experience where, like, your connection to all these other players, provide the, the benefit to other players and all that kind of stuff. So you can still have games like that as well, but ultimately, there will come a day, unfortunately, when Death Stranding is not going to be playable. Death Stranding 2 not going to really be playable unless there's a way to make sure that those servers that interlink all the accounts and everything like that are able to have some kind of access to other people that still have the interest, and that information can still be authenticated so that everybody can have the exchange. I do also think that you're on point when you say that getting this to be a governmental regulation in and of itself is certainly going to be a problem, and the way that it ultimately plays out. If it, unfortunately, doesn't seem like it's the measure is going to get the signatures that are required. But this is a first-time effort. That people can maybe retool the way that it's presented, but this ultimately should just be something that at the development level, there should be some kind of thought put into this, because this is otherwise more and more of the digital restriction that they're trying to do, where I suppose that they would be like, well, if you go and buy a movie ticket, doesn't mean that you can go back to the theater and just keep watching the same movie. But when I buy that movie on physical media, I have it like that. But if I buy it through like a digital access server, like Fandango used to do, or even like on streaming services, things like that. If they decide that they're going to go and edit something and they're going to change this and that, and like they have the power ultimately. Yep. And so and so like that's where I really kind of stand by the concept behind this, is because when you put something out as a piece of art, or just a commercial project, however you want to look at what games are to you, to some degree, you develop something, but then when you hand it off to the audience, it's like these shows that we do streaming throughout the week. It's not just us doing this. Like the chat is ultimately involved. They help shape the way that the show evolves, especially the way that I do stuff on Toasty's channel. I'm a producer in real time. Like we constantly try to keep the chat active on the screen because like it is a dynamic of the whole exchange. Like we're there to be entertained, but also at the same time, if we don't have that audience, then what are we going to be doing other than just sitting in a room, just kind of like talking to ourselves? And so I like the idea that, you want to show goodwill to your fan base in any way, shape, or form possible. It should not be terribly difficult to figure out ways to make, offline, decentralized controls that allow for the players to stay involved with it, so that if you do want to revisit it, 10, 15 years, however long it takes for you to get your next game out, you still have something vital and thriving that people can, have some connection to, that hasn't just gone by the wayside or been completely censored and re-edited, as time goes by. So, but yeah, it's definitely a very, it's very kind of gray area in terms of how the whole thing would, needs to kind of be dealt with. But at least having the conversation about it is legitimately important. And when you're just getting somebody who has, historically been involved in subscription-based service models, being the main opposition to it, it does come off as a little bit, self-serving, to say the least.
Yeah.
And gaming should not be for, a control state. It should be for, the wider audience at play, because that's who these things are made for in the first place. So, and if you're not making it for the audience, then why are you even making it?
Right. And people are going to find their workarounds. Like I think part of it is that, I'm sure that a lot of these big developers and even the small ones, they want to like constantly have a new thing for you to like, the new thing to go after. And so like if people are still playing the old thing because the servers they can just set them up whenever and play with their friends, like why are people still playing Counter-Strike 1.6?
Right.
Even though there's like all these other, like there's more Counter-Strike games, I think, and there's others out there, well, because they like it. But now, it's like, how do I get somebody to buy the new thing if the old thing's still running on servers? So there's that also. But yeah, I'm still like, I'm very, very, I ask because a lot of people are not they don't really understand what the dangers of statism are. And it's anytime you give a government body like license to do something involving like people's like transactions, I think you invite more problems. That's all I'm saying. So like what I would say is that one thing you can do is recognize as a player that you have the power. So just don't give money to people who hate you, but don't give money to people who use you as well.
Right.
And in terms of like the stop killing game thing, it may not go through unless something changes. Did pirate software have some effect on that? Maybe. I think most of it had to do with like people not being aware. But even if it gets all the signatures, it should start that conversation. But definitely like like I said, be very cautious about what you ask your government to do. So because it could blow up in your face way more than a corporation. A corporation, you can just ignore them and don't buy their shit. Like this is what happened to Bud Light and Procter and Gamble and some of these other ones. Like we learned not long ago that the immigration protests I was talking about were funded by a member of the Walmart family. So, okay, so I'm not going to Walmart anymore. Like you can just like punish them that way and they'll respond to it. But the government doesn't have the same thing. You can't just like deny them money because they get it from you anyway because they're the government. So you just have to be very, be careful about that. I know that Europeans tend to be more statist than Americans. So I just ask you guys think about that. But okay. Yeah. Art4's in the chat. I'm gonna read some more chats and then I'm gonna take us out. Says get rid of DMCA style BS preventing private backups and servers. Is that something that the government should be doing? Because I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. Norwegian Black Templar says kernel-based pirate software should always be a no-go. It's too risky as far as security goes. Bob the Darkest Fairy says planned obsolescence. Yes, that's right. Norwegian Black Templar says sadism always lead to tyranny. NovaFan says, NovaFan7515 says the more likely outcome is corporations shut down their games and not make any new ones instead of giving us an offline mode for single player. I mean, it depends on the game. That may be the case. Like all the Souls games, you can play them offline. Like I can boot up Demon Souls, even though they took the servers down like a year ago or something. I can still play the original, not the remake. I can play the original if I want to. And you know, it just tells you at the beginning, like you're playing offline. Like you can play that game offline if you want. You know, it's just even harder. But like some games, I don't see how you could do it. Like if Helldivers 2 goes down, I don't like if they take the servers down for that. I don't see how you could play it single player unless they'd essentially have to build a new game for that. Maybe like a local co-op, like the old Helldivers had. You know, that one like supported up to 4 players because it was like a top-down view and everyone was sharing the screen, which is kind of cool. So I don't know, but like it depends on the game. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that in general. So, all right. So we're right on time, and I think I'm going to end the show there. So, John, why don't you previously tell us where people can find you this week? And
so tonight, I believe after SNH, we will be doing a watch party over on Will the Fans Discord, watching the first few episodes of Red Dwarf so that we can do a review tomorrow on WTF, which we do at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, and I'm there with him throughout the week on Sunday, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then tomorrow afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we will be having St. Hugo from Cult Games on as a guest. And we'll be getting into some stuff about indie game dev stuff. And, there's recent, GDC information that I obtained because they know me as Problematic Productions. And that's how I'm able to kind of get the inside line on some of these things. And of course, I'm with Toasty throughout the week at the same time, Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then on Fridays as well, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, we do the Old White Road on Reality Based with Ryan Roger Athay, who was deplatformed from the exploitation ghetto. And now has to operate solely on Rumble. So, he certainly is doing everything he can to rebuild himself through Rumble, which is why I'm always such an ardent supporter of these things, especially watch us here on Rumble for the conversations we need to have cannot, easily take place on YouTube going forward into the future because it is ideologically captured. But before I go on another rant, just want to thank everybody in the audience who spent these 2 hours with us today, and always a great conversation with you, Brian, every week that we are able to do this.
Thank you.
With that said, safe travels ahead. You all have a wonderful weekend going forward. Be awesome as always.
All right, and thank you guys for coming on the show today. Goon in June is almost over. Now that I have the new setup, I'm going to do one more game on Monday. That'll be the last day. At least that's my goal, is to do one on Monday. So be on the lookout for that. It's either going to be Stellar Blade or if I can get it to work, Rumble Roses XX. So I'm hoping that I can get Rumble Roses to work. But anyway, with that said, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Just the part that worked, which is basically most of this second half. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Long live Vivian.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. Yeah! And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. physically, bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.